Please, don't turn it in, not yet. Just give me 1 day." He said it from the doorway of the narrow service alley, voice low and careful, hands slightly raised, not threatening, just open. The kind of posture that says, "I am not dangerous, I am desperate, and I know the difference matters." Sarah Finch stood beside her collection truck in the gray 6 a.m. light of a Tuesday morning in Providence, Rhode Island, holding a painting wrapped in brown paper that had come apart at one corner, and through that corner, even in the pale early light, she could see color and brushwork that did not belong in a trash bag on Hollis Street. She was 27 years old. She had been on this route for 3 years. She had found things before, good furniture, old books, once a jar of coins worth $200 that she'd turned in to the city lost and found without a second thought. She was that kind of person, quietly, without drama, honest in the way that people are honest when no one taught them that honesty was optional. She looked at the man. 33, lean, dark circles that spoke of weeks rather than nights, wearing a plain jacket that was expensive once and was doing its best to look ordinary now. His name, though she didn't know it yet, was Dorian Vess. "1 day for what?" she asked. He looked at the painting, then at her. To explain what it actually is. She didn't hand it over. She didn't know why exactly, only that his voice had the particular texture of someone telling the truth in a situation where lying would have been easier. She set the painting carefully back in the truck bed and said, "You have until I finish this block." He walked beside her, and he talked. Dorian Vess had been, 18 months ago, the founder of a private equity firm managing assets across 4 countries. His name had appeared in financial publications. He had a penthouse in Boston, a legal team on retainer, and a life that looked from the outside like the clean result of exceptional intelligence and hard work. What the outside hadn't shown was his former business partner, a man named Gareth Cull, who had spent 3 years quietly moving client funds through structures Dorian hadn't fully audited, and who had, when it unraveled, arranged the paper trail so that Dorian's signature appeared in all the wrong places. By the time Dorian understood what had happened, Interpol had a notice. His accounts were frozen. His lawyers advised him in careful language that the process would take years and the outcome was uncertain. He had been living in a rented room in Providence for 4 months under a different name, working with a single forensic accountant named Priya, who was quietly and methodically reconstructing the real transaction record. He had not run. He had stayed deliberately because running would have looked like guilt, and he was not guilty. The painting had been left in his room by the building's previous tenant. He'd found it behind the radiator when he moved in, wrapped exactly as it was now. He hadn't known what it was. He'd done a careful reverse image search 3 days ago and felt the floor tilt beneath him. It was a piece reported stolen from a private collection in 2019, worth, by current estimate, somewhere near $400,000. He had panicked. He had made the single worst decision of a very bad 18 months and put it in the trash, hoping it would simply disappear. "So you threw away $400,000, Sarah said, not unkindly. "I threw away something that would have looked to anyone investigating me like evidence of exactly the kind of thing I'm trying to prove I didn't do." He looked at the pavement. It was a terrible decision. I knew it by midnight. Sarah was quiet for a half block. "And now you want it back." "I want to report it correctly, through Priya, with documentation showing when and where I found it, so it looks like what it actually is, a man who found something that wasn't his and did the right thing, instead of a man who was caught." Sarah stopped the truck. She turned and looked at him fully. "If I help you do this the right way, and it turns out you're lying to me, you understand what that does to me, to my job, to everything." He met her eyes. "I know. I wouldn't ask if I had any other option, and I wouldn't ask someone who didn't seem like the kind of person who'd understand the difference between a man running from justice and a man trying to find it."
A long pause. "How do you know what kind of person I am?"
"You found a painting worth more than you'll earn this year," he said quietly, "and your first instinct wasn't to keep it." She gave him until noon. She drove her remaining route, turned in her truck, and met him at a coffee shop on Crane Street, where Priya joined them by phone, a careful, methodical woman who spoke in precise sentences and asked Sarah 3 calm, direct questions before saying, "This is the correct approach. We document everything. We contact the Providence field office directly, not Interpol. We control the narrative by presenting it first." The report was filed that afternoon. Sarah's name appeared as the collection worker who recovered the item. Dorian's statement documented the find location, the timeline, and his voluntary disclosure. The investigation that followed took 11 weeks. Priya's reconstructed records, combined with a cooperation agreement Dorian's lawyer negotiated, resulted in Gareth Cull being formally charged. Dorian's own case was reviewed, and charges against him were dropped for insufficient evidence, which was a careful legal way of saying that the evidence pointed clearly somewhere else. The painting was returned to its original owner, a quiet collector in Connecticut named Aldous Pemberton, who sent a formal letter of thanks to the Providence Sanitation Department. He also sent a personal check, a finder's reward, perfectly legal, to Sarah Finch. $14,000. She sat with it for 3 days before she cashed it. Dorian found her on the route one morning, 6 weeks after everything had settled. He was not the same man who'd stood in the alley with his hands open. He stood straighter. He looked rested. He held 2 coffees and offered one without preamble. "You didn't have to help me," he said. Sarah took the coffee. "I know. Most people wouldn't have. Most people don't find paintings in trash bags before sunrise." She looked at him evenly. "You told me the truth when lying was easier. That counted for something." He nodded slowly. "I've been thinking about what you said that day. You said, if you're lying to me, you understand what that does to me. You took a real risk." "I did." "Why?" She thought about it honestly. "Because you asked me to see the difference between a man running from justice and a man trying to find it. And I thought, if I can't see that difference, what am I actually doing in this world?" He was quiet for a moment, then softly, "Thank you, Sarah." She looked at her truck, at the ordinary morning around them, at a life that was hers and that she had built with nothing but consistency and quiet integrity. "Don't throw things away when you're afraid," she said simply. "That's the only advice I have." He almost smiled. "I'm working on it." Honesty doesn't always arrive with perfect timing or clean circumstances. Sometimes it stands in an alley at 6 in the morning asking for one day. And kindness, real kindness, is the willingness to listen before you decide. Sarah Finch didn't change the world that Tuesday. She just chose to see a person clearly. That was enough. It always is. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.